Welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome to my channel. My name is Kinsey, and today we are doing a paint with me. It is the beginning of spooky season, and I have a slight obsession with sheet ghost, so that's what we will be painting today. We will be using oil paints, which are my absolute favorite. As always, we will start with the highlighting because I've already painted my canvas black. This is our rag for today. It is very old, as you can see, and definitely has been used for paints. I'm going to fold it up and keep it off to the side. That way I can often rinse off my brush. We are using oil paint, so you don't want to be dipping it into water. If you do want to thin the paint out, you can use a paint thinner, but I like to just put a little bit of paint on and smear it around the canvas little by little to build up the highlights. Sheets are really fun to paint because there's a lot of movement in the fabric, and it's also quite the challenge. I have this footage going at about 10 times the actual speed, so this is definitely moving a lot faster for you guys, luckily. It is fun to watch it come to life. And kind of right now in this stage, my ghost looks a little bit like Cthulhu. I might have done that subconsciously. Now that we're getting into more of the shadowy areas, we want to keep wiping our brush off onto a rag and slowly pulling the highlights down into it. It is a lot easier to blend your colors if you were rinsing it off or wiping it off onto your rag. It really does make a huge difference. You don't want your shadows to be stark white. You want them to remain shadows. Just continue to blend and keep going until it is all cohesive and looks like it is one sheet. And now that we are done with our sheet, we can start on the background. So I'm going to start throwing down all of the moss for the forest. I want some of it up on the trees, and I want all of it down underneath. And because it is a ghost, I do also want to make it seem more transparent. So after I am done laying down all of our greenery, I will go back into the ghost and apply a little bit of green into the sheets. Just light enough so you can tell that there's something in front of it, but you can also see that it continues in the background. When you are applying all of your green, you want to keep in mind your shadows and highlights, as always. And the darker parts will be closer to the trees, and where my ghost is will be a lot lighter. You can see his arm sticking up. We are going to be throwing a lantern there, and with lanterns, it will be providing all of our light. So we will have to make sure to keep that in mind with the grass, the ghost sheet, and all of the surrounding trees. We want the light to be bouncing off of it. This is definitely a process, and if you've noticed, it's kind of hard to tell because of the speed it's going at, but I am not stroking my brush. I am patting it on. I'm kind of in a stippling pattern. That way it mimics the look of a mossy floor. And I don't want any of the brush strokes. I'm not a fan of how brush strokes look, so I quite often use this stippling technique. And like I said earlier, we'll just keep pulling it up onto the trees, make them look more dimensional and less flat. With our trees, we will be using a combination of the black that's already there, the green for highlights, and then a little bit of an auburn red, so like a reddish brown. We will use to help the turn. We will also be using a lot of green, grays, and whites for the background areas, so I'm going to go ahead and fill in the sky right now. We do need the sky to be completed before we can continue with the trees. So a lot of the tree branches will be just a stark black against the sky. A lot of people like to paint their backgrounds on first, but I am a little bit different. I will take the time to slowly work each and every angle to get the look that I want. But if you want this to be more efficient and a little less stressful, definitely apply your background beforehand. Again, I will probably never do that. I don't like doing that. So just bear with me as I get inside of every crevice in between all the trees. You can kind of tell that it's like a grayish green. Very Sleepy Hollow vibes. You can definitely tell why it would be a better idea to start with your background. It blends a lot easier. But I also don't put that much planning into my paintings. Like, I had it all drawn out, great, awesome. I don't know. I make things a lot more difficult than they need to be. Learn from me. Put your background on first. Now we are making our ghost look transparent, and if you can tell, I'm using very, very little green pigment to make this happen. You do not want to erase the white of the ghost. Now it is time to add more for the trees. So this is our black. It's a brown based black. So it will be picking up those browns once we add a little bit of white to it. Also had a little bit of the blue and the green mixed in to add a little bit more atmosphere. And we want to keep in mind the way that trees are shaped. They are not two-dimensional things. They are very, very dimensional. They have all of the curves, and light will move around their curves. So in the very middle of the trees, we will be going in a stark black and then pulling the colors out of it from the sides. That way you can tell that the tree is indeed round. and the light is coming from behind and around it. Just really going in and defining all of the trees, fixing what we had messed up in the process of laying down the background, and adding all of the stark branches for the shadows. This is why we wanted to throw the background on when we did. If you need a little bit of more help with this, if you're making your own forest, it's okay to go onto Google and look for reference photos. There are thousands and thousands to choose from, and you can just pay attention to the trees. How is the light reacting around them? How do the root systems look? Where the bark's separating? Just remember to always pay very, very close attention to what it is you are painting if you're not familiar with them. I'm not going super detailed in the trees. It is definitely more of a cartoonish vibe for this painting. But I do want the definition. A tree doesn't just go straight down or straight up. They are moving in every which direction. Playing with light and really learning how light works brings your capability of working on realism to a whole new level. Our forest is really starting to come alive. All of the colors are popping, and you can really tell that the ghost is inside of the forest now, just not just sticker slapped onto it, but it's actually becoming a part of the story. So we are going to take this very small brush, which I had made even smaller by cutting it. Sorry about my focus. See? I cut it a little bit. I really like working with tiny brushes. This is going to help us put our lantern on. The lantern is the very last thing that we are adding. We are applying this to wet oil paints, but that is okay. As long as we keep going back in for more of the pigments and just be very careful of what we're doing, we won't ruin the sheet underneath. We want to be able to still see the sheet behind it. And now we can add in all of the color from the flame. It's going to go onto the ghost and then go onto the surrounding trees. And blend, 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 blend. Blending is your best friend when it comes to oil paints. We started our base painting using greens and blues, so we have to look at the color wheel and figure out that our complementary colors are orange and red. So that is what we are using to give it its final pop. I am also using a gradation of different grays to help throw in all of the branches in the background. You got to keep in mind when you're working with atmosphere, dimension, not everything is going to be the same color, and you really want to play on the different tones depending on if something's closer to you or further away. I'm going to go ahead and throw down these adorable little mushrooms, add more fun to the picture, and then pull in more highlights just to make sure that this path is looking exactly the way I wanted it. Once all is said and done, I will cover this in UV resin, let cure, and it will be done. So here's the moment we've been waiting for, the reveal. Always, thank you so much for watching. If you've made it this far in the video, you are the real MVP. We also have a lot of fun going on over at our Patreon, and we hope to see you in the next video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Bye!